Dr. Slone is one of the most notable and interesting characters in Fortnite.
Always so dramatic.
From her arrival to her apparent death and her resurrection. Here's the complete Dr. Slone timeline. In Dr. Slone's early life, she showed an interest in educational learning and martial arts. Qualities that would later make her a perfect fit for the Imagined Order and Geno's plan of genetic and civilized perfection. A love for mathematics and literacy would see her eventually recruited to the Imagined Order, and according to Spider-Man, they do evil sciencey things like snatch people from different realities and make them fight each other. For Imagined Order, the Imagined Order controlled the 0 Point for centuries. It's not known what Dr. Slone was doing during the time of Chapter 1 and her first appearance in Chapter 2 Season 5, but I'd like to think she played a part in manipulating the Seven to carry out the end event, which came to light during the downtime after the end event, and of course working her way up through the ranks of the Imagined Order, as displayed by this fantastic loading screen. Now there is some who would argue that this isn't canon, but take it easy, it's not that serious. And of course, I think she spent most of the time ordering Jonesy around. And another thing to know about Dr. Slone is that she's immortal. In Zero War Issue 3, Jonesy tells us when you join the island management team, you get benefits, like immortality. Of course, because Slone is a higher officer, we assume she would also be immortal. In the same issue, at some point, Jones asked to leave the Imagined Order. Slone denied this, saying your family would lose their protection that we give them. And Jones came from a very volatile world. It's not clear if Slone is under the same arrangement. In Season 15, Jones confirmed to Slone that the Avengers were successful in getting rid of the Galactus.
They did it! We're still here!
Yeah, but the 0 Point is exposed. You have to go in.
Quickly, Slone ordered Jones not to let anyone escape the loop from the exposed 0 Point, and that would be the first time we would hear Dr. Slone. Unfortunately, it would seem like ordering John Jones around, yes, Jones's real name is John Jones, would eventually blow up in Slone's face. After gathering hunters for the IO, to try and keep loopers inside the loop, and John Jones recruited some amazing hunters for Dr. Slone and the Imagined Order. This included the likes of the Flash, the Mandalorian, Condor, and Cypher PK's favourite, Chun-Li, which makes me think John Jones actually has like a fourth wall element. Now, he just spent the majority of the time getting his comic book and game favourite characters. Honestly, this is not canon, but you tell me otherwise. But after the attack from Galactus and John Jones forgetting to close the pure portals where he brought the hunters through, the 0 Point was pushed to its limits. It meant that reality was collapsing. Slone ordered Jones to escape.
You have your orders, now get out of there.
I'm gonna do what we should have done from the very start. I'm going to the 7.
You took an oath. You betrayed everything we stood for.
Jones and the Foundation would be successful in sealing the 0 Point, stopping it from imploding, and Slone even at this point showing that she does actually care for Jones, telling him to get the hell out of Reality Zero. And that's what I like to think anyway. So Slone and the Imagined Order evacuated from Reality Zero, and they would end up in Reality NF1935, which would be the designated DC reality in Fortnite. Fortnite does have a multiverse, so the main Battle Royale game you play, the island that used to, is called Reality Zero. And Reality Zero is where the 0 Point is. The thing that basically created everything in the Fortnite universe. Just so happens that DC reality is called NF1935. This is because DC Comics was founded in 1935 as National Comics Publication, and Batman made his first appearance in the New Fun Comics. NF1935. After the Foundation sealed the 0 Point, the Imagined Order had a problem. Because of what the Foundation did, it was sealed off from other realities. So Slone and the Imagined Order were stuck in reality NF1935. But they had a plan, which involved the Batman Who Laughs, Lex Luthor, and Deathstroke. And don't forget Batman, because that was an important piece of the puzzle. This next arc would involve 2 of the Fortnite comics with DC, Fortnite x DC 0 Point and the Foundation comic. Batman would come across a rift that would send him to Reality Zero, and the Imagined Order was watching him the whole time. Although Dr. Slone did evacuate the whole island, so I guess some stayed behind, or this is just an oversight, but the entire 3rd issue of the 0 Point comic is done from the perspective of IO observation teams, so it may just be an oversight. But what would be an oversight if you don't subscribe to this channel? So make sure to hit that subscribe button, as you're basically telling YouTube that you like my channel, and then YouTube will give you more videos, hopefully. I think that's how it works. Eventually, Deathstroke would be successful, putting the anchor device on the 0 Point, allowing the Imagined Order eventually to go back to Reality Zero. But on their return, the island was under attack from the last reality. Dr. Slone would recruit the Looper, or indeed us, to help find a mole that was in the Imagined Order, feeding the last reality information. Now, a Looper is someone who is trapped inside the Loop. The Loop is the Battle Royale game you play, and every time you die within the game, you would spawn the next game, and so on and so on. But you can escape from this and go to the same island but outside the loop, where you remember all your looped memories, but not the memories before you somehow got into the loop. While this was happening, Slone and the IO would build bombs that the last reality would abduct inadvertently from Corny Complex. This is the same season where Marigold would tell us that she can't understand how Midas went missing. 2 years Fortnite, 2 years. Slone would also be a boss this season at Corny Complex. Slone would find a time, or the IO, to take out the mole in Maven and then the parent radio broadcaster in Mari. Well, Slone told her to cease communications with the aliens, and we haven't heard from her since. While season 17 was taking place, the IO would be looking for their traitor John Jones, and Jones would end up hiding as a cow. Of course, the IO would eventually find him. More on this later. And now it's time to talk about them bombs that the last reality would abduct inadvertently. Dr. Slone eventually would lead them to abduct Corny Complex. Phase 1 of Dr. Slone's plan was in motion. Of course, the Loopers, us, were also abducted, as this was part of Slone's plan because we had the alien jetpacks on which she would hack, giving her very smart intellect. Before detonating the bomb, a cube will start to rise up. She was shocked by this, leading her to make some drastic changes to her plans. Slone decided to activate the bombs and not return us home, as she believed that would be too dangerous. And though some may see it as harsh, I believe Slone had a very difficult decision to make that day, and she did what she thought was right to protect the island against the last reality, and in fact the entirety of the Omniverse if the last reality got their hands on the 0 point. Oddly, in my opinion, Slone would spend next season making her way from the destroyed IO base to the redacted door, which at the time I thought was very odd, but I believe she was actually transporting John Jones, as this loading screen from chapter 2 actually shows John Jones getting abducted by the UFO. The only time that he would have been able to get out in there was the explosion, unless I'm missing something. This would lead us nicely into one of the greatest, if not greatest live event in Fortnite history, the chapter 2 end event, which brought us to the flip side. But in that end event, we saw Dr. Slone doing something probably unforgivable to John Jones, before the Foundation would step in and save John Jones. But there appears to be this prior relationship, I believe, between Slone and the Foundation because of the reaction Slone gives to the Foundation's face reveal. Like she's taken back by the Foundation actually being alive because Dr. Slone thought he had died. But the switch flipped after the face reveal. But it could be just what the Foundation said, and Slone thought she was being undermined. Dr. Slone is a very high intellect, which she may have seen the Foundation's reaction as making her feel intellectually inferior. After the flip, the Imagined Order begins to mobilize to prepare to attack the Seven, who it turns out were on the other side of Apollo, Artemis. Dr. Slone and the Imagined Order sent mole teams to get to the surface of Artemis. That's basically a big drill, with the Imagined Order showing an array of arsenals. From of course the IO guards that we've seen before, they had airships and tanks and so on. The war would be fought between the Imagined Order and the Seven, with eventually some help from the Avengers, which at this point the Seven and Spider-Man would attack an IO outpost, where Dr. Slone would be with Gunner, but at this point they would cut their losses and make a run for it. At some point the Seven would gain intel that the Imagined Order was planning to wipe the island and start again with the 0 point by making a doomsday device called the Collider. Of course the Seven would countermeasure this by getting the mech, which at this point was in the Ice Moon along with Paradigm, but the mech would need more power, and the Origin knew that a bit of the 0 point actually broke off when Galactus tried to take the 0 point, but it ended up in Reality 616. But of course, to travel to Reality 616, they needed to make their way to the 0 point and calibrate it to travel to Reality 616, but the 0 point is at the heart of the Imagined Order base. On the way there, Jones would take a trip to his office, which Slone had alarmed. Knowing where Jones would go, Slone would cut him off at the bridge, where the 0 point resides. After a fight scene where Gunner would smash the Foundation through a wall, Gunner would suspect, did he kill the Foundation? Of course Slone says, I thought that before, which indeed is a throwback to the Chapter 2 Season 8 event.
I watched you die.
I got over it.
You!
Eventually the Seven would bring the mech back to the island, and the war between the Imagine Order and the Seven would soon reach its climax. The mech would make its way to the island, and it would soon try and get to the collider, making its way past blimps, brutes, tanks, but the Imagine Order was prepared for this, having placed explosive charges to bring the mech down. I believe the intel probably came from Panther, but Dr. Slone and John Jones would soon lock eyes, with Jones giving Slone an ultimatum.
Slone! You don't have to do this!
Always so dramatic. Any last words, Jones?
Look out?
At that point, many believed Dr. Slone had met her demise, but this was not the case, and Slone would soon find herself in a jungle. Dr. Slone would be rescued by Relic, which Slone says, "I have to thank my rescuer, but hope he doesn't expect a fruit basket." But after spending quite a few days in this jungle, a quiet jungle, because the people used to call this place home, vanished.
No sign of catastrophic damage. It's as if the residents just vanished. But before they did, they left a message.
Eventually she would come across a stellar projector. After researching the stellar projector, she concluded that it used prisms to manipulate light, and Dr. Slone believed it was key to her plans. But soon they would be interrupted by a team of explorers, the Luminaries, which were part of the Syndicate back in Chapter 4 Season 2. She thought it was best to put herself forward as an expert and convince them to excavate the site, which eventually she did, and they would come across some glyphs, which gave her clues of how to use the stellar projector. I suspect this to be the message that she was talking about. I absolutely love Sloane's arc during the Wilds period. While she came across as a motivated scientist, there was essence of vulnerability.
It's Slone. Day number... still in the jungle.
Or maybe that's just mild frustration. Many loopers, us, were not convinced by Sloane's sudden change of heart, but people soon came around to Slone because of Optimus Prime.
I have been in contact with the one you call Slone, and while she may be an unlikely ally, she alone knows the path forward.
Giving many the reassurance to trust her. So eventually we would get the stellar projector working, and it warned us of an upcoming eclipse. I believe while there might be some hidden depths to all the clues, on the surface now it looks like it was warning us about Kato Thorne and the time machine. Slone says, "I have a plan that might give us a path to escape our enemies for good. It's risky, but it's worth it. If it pays off, you might actually be the hero that the mega city syndicates keep calling you." Now at the start of this video I said Slone is quite high intellect, but looking through all the quest lines again, it seems like Slone did know about Kato Thorne, the time machine, and what she was actually planning to lead us to this next season now, Chapter 4 Season 4, and the whole time traveling arc. And while Kato Thorne may have been the immediate enemy, I believe the enemies who we did get away from were the last reality. Or maybe Geno. So Sloane's next stage of the plan was to get together a heist team to steal the time machine off of Kato Thorne. Kato Thorne is a time-traveling vampire who is quite a collector. He has Midas' hand, Oro's head, and an array of other stuff, but it's no match for the Looper and the heist team, including Fish Thick, Mia, Cabby Lamb, Piper Pace, with the two de facto leaders of that heist group, Nolan Chance and Antonio, who manages to steal the time machine, but Kato Thorne is killed by Shimmerdusk. Wait, what? After this, John Jones makes a reappearance, both Jones and Slone deciding for the greater good to work together again. Jones would eventually start making some test runs, which brings back some Season 5 items. Jones would eventually travel back to Chapter 1 Season 5, and Slone would leave him with one message.
Jones, Slone here. You know when and where you are, and that means you know what you have to do. And what will happen on this side when you're done. Tomorrow, you take the time machine back. And tonight, I'm recording this. It occurs to me that I've never sent a message through time, so you might want to check back. Everything you do will ripple forward to this very moment. This might not even be the first time I've recorded this message. Do the job, Jones. It has to be done.
So this audio recording that Slone makes for Jones is actually the only one she sends. For other messages that you end up hearing throughout the season is the same one but changed because of time. It seems like time travel in Fortnite works on the butterfly effect.
And what will happen on this side when you're done? Everything you do will ripple forward to this very moment.
Jones arrives back in Chapter 1 at Pleasant Park. It seems like the plan is for him to make his way to Dusty Divot just in time for the scientists to build a rocket. He then straps a time machine on the rocket, and then we have the end event. But the last time Jones checks back in with the audio recording, it is changed. Of course, because it seems like Jones did change some stuff. Some things that happened in Season OG did not happen in the original Chapter 1.
Slone here. I've definitely left this message many times before, so get right to it, huh? This is the first time in countless lifetimes that I don't know what happens next. We're both heading off into the unknown. I guess this is goodbye for this me and that you. But we'll meet again. Reality's not done with us yet. Keep the campfires burning, Jones. Wherever and whenever you go.
Even though Slone does say the intention and his plan is not to change time, which Slone says when Jones checks back the recording a second time.
You're back here for a reason. You're smart enough to figure it out. And it's not to change the future, by the way. Drop that fantasy right now. This is an extraction, and you're leading the way.
Unfortunately, it's meant that time has changed, and Slone is concerned that they may not be the same person that they were before they started to mess around with time. But we're now coming on Chapter 5 map, and it seems like the plan had worked. We have escaped our enemies for now, although it seems like we've inadvertently run into new ones. But of course, Peely went missing and Jones is seeking vengeance. Jones has lost his family, his wife, his kids, now his two friends in Peely and Slone. And there's some tiny hints that Slone is still here, or at least being thought about by the islanders. A computer screen here, graffiti there. So I don't believe it's the last time we've heard from Slone. I like to think that Slone is a deep, complex character that does actually care, and I want to see more of that. I hope whatever Jones did last season hasn't made her back to how she was in Chapter 2. We need to be moving forward with the storyline, not backwards. But I hope you enjoyed this overview of Dr. Slone and her timeline in the Fortnite storyline. Thank you very much for watching.